Every morning, when the sun rises and the world awakens, we are given a new opportunity, a fresh start. And how you begin your day often determines how the rest of it unfolds. This is why I encourage you to start your day with Psalm 27, a powerful declaration of faith that can transform your mindset and fuel your spirit for the challenges ahead. Starting your day with devotion, particularly in the early morning, is one of the most transformative practices you can adopt. It is not just a habit, but a way to align your heart, mind, and soul with God's presence before anything else. In the stillness of the morning, when the world is quiet and distractions are minimal, you have the perfect opportunity to draw near to God and set the tone for the rest of your day. This time, free from the hustle and noise that will inevitably come later, allows you to focus on what truly matters: your relationship with God. When you begin your day with God, you are making a powerful statement that He comes first. This simple act of prioritizing time with the Lord over anything else signals that your faith and spiritual life are central to your existence. Before the demands of work, family, and the world begin to pull you in different directions, you choose to ground yourself in the presence of God. It's a decision that says, before I step into my day, I want to step into your presence, Lord. I want to be led by you, filled by you, and covered by your grace. The early morning is a sacred time because it's often the only part of the day when we can be truly still. Throughout the day, our minds are flooded with tasks, responsibilities, and challenges. But in the early hours, there is a natural peace. And it's in this peace that God speaks to us most clearly. We see this model throughout the Bible. Jesus Himself would often rise early in the morning to pray and spend time with His Father before engaging in His ministry. If the Son of God needed this time of quiet devotion, how much more do we? Spending time with God in the morning doesn't just prepare your spirit, it prepares your mind and body for the challenges of the day. When you fill yourself with His Word and connect with His heart, you receive strength and clarity that will carry you through difficult situations. It becomes easier to navigate trials when you've already reminded yourself of God's promises. Psalm 27, for example, is a beautiful passage to meditate on in the morning because it speaks of God's protection, light, and salvation. When you declare, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" you are arming yourself with the confidence to face anything that comes your way. Early morning devotion is a time of spiritual renewal. Each day brings new challenges, and our spiritual energy can easily become depleted if we're not consistently connecting with the source of all strength. When you devote the first part of your day to prayer, worship, and meditation on God's Word, you are renewing your spirit, much like how sleep renews your body. This renewal is essential because it allows you to approach the day not from a place of exhaustion or anxiety, but from a place of peace and strength. You are not just reacting to the world, you are moving forward with divine purpose. This quiet time with God also deepens your intimacy with Him. As you spend these early moments in prayer, you open your heart to hear His voice and receive His guidance. You begin to recognize His presence more throughout the day, seeing His hand at work in even the smallest details. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we encounter as human beings. It can grip our hearts, cloud our judgment, and prevent us from stepping into the fullness of what God has for us. Life's challenges often present themselves in ways that stir up this fear, whether it's fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or fear of rejection. Yet Psalm 27 offers a profound reminder of how we can live fearlessly in the face of these challenges. When the psalmist declares, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" he is not just making a statement, he is embracing a spiritual reality that can change the way we live our lives. When we face challenges, the natural reaction is to feel overwhelmed. We begin to imagine worst-case scenarios, allowing anxiety to take over. But Psalm 27 reminds us that God's presence changes everything. The psalmist identifies God as His light, His salvation, and His stronghold, three powerful images that directly confront fear. God as our light means that even in the darkest situations, He provides clarity and direction. Darkness often symbolizes fear because it represents the unknown. But when God is your light, you are no longer navigating through life blindly. His light illuminates the path ahead, even if only one step at a time, allowing you to move forward without fear of stumbling. God, as your salvation, means that He is your deliverer. No matter how impossible the situation may seem, God has the power to rescue you. This is a critical truth when facing challenges that seem too big to handle on your own. Whether it's a financial crisis, a health issue, or a strained relationship, knowing that God is your salvation allows you to release the burden of trying to solve everything by yourself. It frees you from the fear of failure because your trust is in the one who has already overcome the world. Then God is described as a stronghold, a fortress of protection. This imagery evokes the idea of safety and security. When you face challenges, it often feels as though you are under attack from circumstances, people, or even your own mind. But Psalm 27 reassures you that God is a place of refuge. In Him, you are protected from the emotional, mental, and spiritual assaults that life's challenges bring. This understanding gives you the courage to confront difficulties head-on, knowing that you are not defenseless. You are sheltered under the protection of the Almighty. Fearlessness in the face of life's challenges doesn't mean that you won't feel afraid at times. Fear is a natural human response. But living fearlessly means that fear doesn't control you, it doesn't dictate your actions or paralyze you from moving forward. When you begin your day with the truth of Psalm 27 in your heart, you are reminded that God is with you every step of the way. The psalmist says, "Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear though war break out against me. Even then I will be confident." This is the ultimate expression of fearlessness. It's not about the absence of challenges, it's about maintaining confidence in the presence of God despite the challenges. The more you internalize this truth, the more fearless you become. You realize that fear is a lie that distorts reality. The reality is that God is your light, your salvation, and your stronghold. With this assurance, no challenge is too great, no obstacle too daunting. You are equipped with everything you need to face life's difficulties with boldness and faith. Fear loses its power when you understand who God is and what He promises to be for you in every situation. Confidence in God's protection is a powerful gift that allows us to walk through life with a sense of peace, no matter the circumstances. In a world filled with uncertainty, challenges, and dangers, it is natural to seek security. Yet, true protection doesn't come from external sources, it comes from a deep inner assurance that God is watching over us, guiding us, and shielding us from harm. This confidence is not based on wishful thinking, but on the promises of God's Word, as seen in Psalm 27. The psalmist begins by proclaiming, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" This is the foundation of our confidence in God's protection. When we understand that God is our salvation, we recognize that He has already delivered us from the greatest threat we will ever face: separation from Him. If God has already conquered death, then there is nothing in this life that He cannot protect us from. This gives us the courage to face life's challenges without fear because we know that our eternal security is in His hands. But God's protection is not only about the eternal, it is also about the here and now. The psalmist continues, "The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" A stronghold is a place of refuge, a fortress where one can find safety from the enemy. In ancient times, a stronghold was the most secure place one could be during an attack. This imagery reminds us that God is not just a distant protector, but He is our immediate, ever-present refuge. When we are surrounded by trouble, we can run to Him and find shelter. This sense of security allows us to live boldly, knowing that we are not vulnerable to the whims of the world. Life will always bring moments of uncertainty, whether it's a health crisis, financial strain, or relational conflict, but the confidence we have in God's protection gives us a sense of stability in the midst of chaos. We know that even when the storms of life rage around us, God is the fortress we can retreat into. This doesn't mean that we will never face difficulties, but it means that in the midst of those difficulties, God's hand is upon us, guiding us through and ensuring that we are never defeated. Confidence in God's protection allows us to trust Him even when we don't fully understand the situation. There are moments when we may not see how God is protecting us. We may face setbacks, loss, or hardship, and in those moments, it can be tempting to doubt whether God is truly guarding us. Yet, confidence in His protection is built on faith, not on visible outcomes. We trust that He sees what we cannot see, that He knows what we cannot know, and that His protection is not always about preventing challenges, but about carrying us through them. This kind of confidence requires a daily renewal of our trust in Him. It's easy to lose sight of God's protection when we are overwhelmed by the pressures of life, but when we spend time in His Word and in prayer, we remind ourselves of His promises. Psalm 27 encourages us to seek God's face continually. It is in seeking Him that our confidence is renewed. As we dwell in His presence, our fears are replaced by faith, and our anxiety is replaced by assurance. Confidence in God's protection is not passive, it compels us to live with boldness. When we are secure in the knowledge that God is our protector, we are freed from the paralysis of fear. We can step out in faith, pursue our purpose, and face life's uncertainties with courage, knowing that God is always with us, watching over us, and guiding us through every challenge. His protection is not just a shield, it is the source of our strength and confidence in every aspect of life. Seeking God's presence daily is a transformative practice that shapes every aspect of our lives. It's not just a routine or a ritual, it is the pursuit of a relationship that brings us into deeper communion with the One who created us. When we intentionally seek God's presence, we are choosing to live in awareness of His nearness, His guidance, and His love. This daily connection with God is the foundation of a fulfilled and purposeful life because it aligns us with His will and opens our hearts to His influence. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it's easy to become consumed with the busyness of life. We wake up thinking about our to-do lists, our responsibilities, and the challenges we need to overcome. But when we seek God's presence first, we reset our priorities. We remind ourselves that before anything else, we are spiritual beings created to connect with God. This daily act of seeking Him grounds us and centers our thoughts on the eternal rather than temporary. It reminds us that no matter what the day holds, God's presence is our true source of peace and strength. Spending time in God's presence each day allows us to experience His guidance in a very personal way. When we seek Him through prayer, worship, and reading His Word, we create space for Him to speak into our lives. The more we make room for God, the clearer His voice becomes. Often we are looking for direction in life, wondering what the next step is, how to handle a difficult situation, or how to make a critical decision. In those moments, it is in God's presence that we find the clarity and wisdom we need. His presence brings revelation, helping us discern His plans for us. Seeking God daily also strengthens our faith. In His presence, our trust in Him deepens because we begin to understand more of who He is. The more we know Him, the more we are able to rely on Him. When we are consistent in seeking God, we build a relationship that is not based on circumstances, but on a genuine love for who He is. This daily connection helps us navigate life's ups and downs with resilience, knowing that God is with us through every season. Whether we are facing joy or sorrow, success or failure, God's presence is a constant source of comfort and assurance. Seeking God's presence daily renews our spirit. Life has a way of draining us emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. But when we make it a priority to seek God, we are replenished by His presence. He revives us, gives us new strength, and fills us with His peace. Just as our bodies need food to sustain us, our spirits need daily communion with God to keep us spiritually healthy and vibrant. Without this connection, we become weary, disconnected, and more vulnerable to the pressures and temptations of the world. Additionally, seeking God's presence keeps our hearts aligned with His purposes. It's easy to get distracted by our own desires and ambitions, but when we spend time with God, He realigns our focus. We begin to see the bigger picture, His plan for our lives, His calling for us, and His desires for the world around us. In His presence, we find the courage to pursue His will over our own, and the strength to walk in obedience to His calling. Seeking God's presence daily invites His peace into every area of our lives. When we carry His presence with us, we are less affected by the chaos around us. His peace guards our hearts and minds, allowing us to move through life with confidence and calm. It's not that the challenges disappear, but that we are equipped to face them with a heart that is anchored in God's presence. This peace transforms our perspective and empowers us to live with purpose and joy, no matter what comes our way. Trusting in God's timing requires a deep level of faith, patience, and surrender. It means relinquishing our desire for control and acknowledging that God's plan is far greater than anything we could imagine. In a world that moves at a rapid pace and demands immediate results, waiting on God can often feel challenging. We live in a culture where speed is valued, instant gratification. Fast solutions and quick responses are the norm. Yet God operates on a different timeline, one that is perfect and aligned with His eternal wisdom. Trusting in His timing, therefore, is an act of faith that acknowledges He knows what is best for us, even when we cannot see the full picture. When we place our trust in God's timing, we are recognizing that He is in control of the seasons of our lives. Just as nature has seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter, so do we. Each season has its purpose, and each requires a different level of preparation and patience. We may be in a season of waiting, where it feels like our prayers are unanswered, our dreams are delayed, or progress is slow. In those moments, it's easy to become discouraged or frustrated, wondering why God is taking so long. But Scripture reminds us that God's timing is always perfect. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a divine purpose in every waiting period, even when we don't understand it. One of the most important lessons we learn in trusting God's timing is the development of patience. Patience is not just the ability to wait, but the ability to maintain a positive attitude while waiting. It's about trusting that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating things in ways we cannot see. Sometimes the delays we experience are not denials, but are necessary for our growth, preparation, and transformation. God may be using this waiting period to refine our character, deepen our relationship with Him, or prepare us for the blessings He has in store. What seems like a delay in our eyes is often God's way of setting things in motion in the right order. Trusting God's timing also teaches us surrender. It is a reminder that we are not in control, and that's okay. We often have a timeline in mind for our goals, relationships, and milestones, but God's plan transcends our limited understanding. Surrendering to His timing means letting go of our own expectations and embracing His perfect will. It means trusting that His timing is not just right, but the best for us. Isaiah 55:8-9 tells us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." This verse reminds us that God's perspective is infinitely greater than ours, and His timing is always aligned with His higher purpose. During times of waiting, it's important to stay connected to God. Waiting is not passive, it's active trust. It involves continuing to seek Him in prayer, staying faithful in our actions, and maintaining hope. We may not understand why things are happening the way they are, but we can trust that God is faithful. He is never late. He knows the right moment to answer our prayers, fulfill our desires, and bring His promises to pass. In trusting God's timing, we also gain peace. The anxiety that often comes with trying to control the outcome is replaced by a sense of calm when we know that God is in control. We can rest in the assurance that He is working all things together for our good, even when it doesn't look like it. Trust in His timing allows us to move through life with confidence, knowing that He has already planned every detail of our journey and that His timing is always worth the wait. God as your stronghold is a powerful concept that evokes safety, protection, and security. A stronghold is a place of refuge, a fortified location that provides defense against attacks and threats. In ancient times, a stronghold was where people sought safety from enemies or danger. It was a place where they could regroup, recover, and remain protected from harm. In the same way, God is our spiritual stronghold, a refuge in times of trouble, a shield in moments of danger, and a constant source of strength when life's challenges overwhelm us. The Bible frequently uses the image of God as a stronghold, reminding us that in Him we are safe and secure. Psalm 27:1 declares, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" This verse captures the essence of what it means to trust in God as our stronghold. It speaks to the confidence that no matter what threats we face, we can rest in the assurance that God is our protector. When God is your stronghold, it doesn't mean that difficulties and challenges won't come your way. Life is full of trials, and we all face battles, whether they be physical, emotional, or spiritual. But knowing that God is your stronghold means that you are never fighting alone. You are not left to fend for yourself in the face of adversity. Instead, you are covered by the power and presence of the Almighty, who stands as your defense. This gives you the courage to face whatever comes your way, not because of your own strength, but because you are relying on the unshakable strength of God. God's protection as a stronghold is not just physical, it is emotional and spiritual as well. Many times, the battles we face are internal fear, anxiety, stress, or discouragement. In these moments, God provides a refuge for our minds and hearts. He offers peace that surpasses understanding and a sense of security that the world cannot give. When the pressures of life become overwhelming, you can run to God and find rest in His presence. His word becomes your fortress, reminding you of His promises and sustaining you through the storm. God, as your stronghold, means that He is a constant presence in your life. Strongholds in the natural world are physical structures that can be weakened or destroyed over time. But God's strength is eternal and unbreakable. His protection is not temporary or conditional. It is always available to those who seek Him. No matter how many times you need to run to God for refuge, He is always there, ready to shield you and give you the strength you need to keep moving forward. Trusting God as your stronghold also frees you from the fear of the unknown. Life is unpredictable, and we often don't know what the future holds. But when we trust that God is our stronghold, we no longer need to live in fear of what may come. We can live with confidence, knowing that whatever challenges we face, God is already there. He goes before us, making a way where there seems to be no way, and standing as our protector against any enemy that may rise up against us. Seeing God as your stronghold encourages you to draw closer to Him. The more you understand His protection and strength, the more you are compelled to seek Him. In times of peace, you can still run to God, building your relationship with Him and deepening your faith. This connection becomes your source of strength in times of trouble as you learn to trust more fully in His ability to protect and provide. In every situation, God as your stronghold is a source of comfort, strength, and unshakable security. When the storms of life rage, when enemies surround you, and when you feel weak or vulnerable, you can rest in the knowledge that God is your fortress and ever-present help in times of trouble. His strength is your strength, and in Him, you are always safe. Guidance through uncertainty is one of the greatest assurances we can receive from God. Life is filled with unknowns moments when we are unsure of what to do, where to go, or how to handle the challenges before us. It's natural to feel anxious or overwhelmed when we don't have all the answers. Yet, as believers, we are not left to navigate the uncertainty of life alone. God promises to guide us even in the darkest and most confusing moments. His guidance is steady, reliable, and perfectly timed, ensuring that we find our way even when the path ahead seems unclear. One of the key aspects of trusting God for guidance is recognizing that uncertainty is a natural part of the human experience. We often desire to know what lies ahead, to plan every detail of our lives, and to avoid surprises. But God doesn't always reveal the whole picture to us at once. Instead, He often leads us step by step, teaching us to rely on Him more deeply. This process builds our faith as we learn to trust in His wisdom and timing rather than our own limited understanding. God's guidance through uncertainty often requires patience and surrender. We may not always understand why things are happening the way they are, or why certain doors remain closed while others are open. But in those moments, we are called to trust that God sees what we cannot see. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. This passage emphasizes the importance of trusting God even when our own understanding fails. It is in the surrender of our need for control that we find peace and clarity. God guides us through uncertainty by speaking to us in a variety of ways. His word is one of the primary sources of guidance, offering wisdom, comfort, and direction. When we are uncertain about what to do, turning to Scripture can provide the answers we seek. The Bible is filled with stories of individuals who faced uncertainty and found their way through God's direction. From Abraham, who was called to leave his homeland without knowing his destination, to Moses, who led the Israelites through the wilderness, the Bible is a testament to how God leads His people through the unknown. In addition to His word, God guides us through prayer. When we seek Him in prayer, we invite His presence into our situation, opening ourselves up to His voice. Prayer is not just about presenting our request to God, it's about listening for His direction. In moments of uncertainty, prayer can bring a sense of peace and clarity, helping us to discern the next step, even if the entire path is not yet clear. It allows us to align our will with God's and trust that He will reveal His plans in His perfect time. God also uses the circumstances of life to guide us. Sometimes uncertainty comes because God is redirecting us or closing certain doors to open others. What may feel like a setback or confusion is often God's way of steering us towards something better. He is always at work, orchestrating events in our lives to lead us toward His purpose. Trusting His guidance means being open to change, even when it doesn't align with our own plans. In moments of uncertainty, we also experience God's guidance through the counsel of others. Proverbs 11:14 tells us, where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety. God often speaks to us through the wisdom of trusted friends, mentors, or spiritual leaders. They can provide insight, encouragement, and perspective that helps us navigate uncertain times. God's guidance through uncertainty is about trust and relationship. The more we seek Him, the more we learn to recognize His voice and follow His leading. While uncertainty is uncomfortable, it is also an opportunity to draw closer to God, to deepen our reliance on Him, and to witness His faithfulness firsthand. He never leaves us to wander aimlessly. Even when we cannot see the road ahead, we can be confident that God is with us, guiding us every step of the way. Spiritual confidence over fear is one of the most empowering truths we can embrace in our walk with God. Fear is a natural human response, one that can arise from various circumstances, whether it's fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or fear of rejection. But as believers, we are called to rise above fear and live with a confidence rooted not in ourselves, but in God. This spiritual confidence comes from knowing who God is and understanding the power and authority we have as His children. It is a confidence that enables us to face life's challenges with boldness, knowing that God is greater than any fear we may encounter. The Bible frequently reminds us of the importance of overcoming fear. One of the most powerful verses on this topic is found in 2 Timothy 1:7, which says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." This verse is a clear declaration that fear does not come from God. Instead, God has given us the tools to overcome fear, power, love, and a sound mind. These are spiritual gifts that allow us to walk confidently, knowing that fear has no place in our lives. When we tap into these gifts, we realize that fear is an obstacle that can be conquered through faith in God. Spiritual confidence begins with understanding God's character. Fear often arises when we feel uncertain about the future or when we focus on our limitations. But when we shift our focus to who God is, His power, His love, and His faithfulness, fear loses its grip on us. God is omnipotent, meaning He is all-powerful. There is nothing that is too difficult for Him, no situation that is beyond His control. When we remind ourselves of this truth, we can confidently face any situation, knowing that God is more than capable of handling whatever comes our way. God's love also plays a crucial role in building spiritual confidence. 1 John 4:18 tells us there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. When we truly understand the depth of God's love for us, fear begins to dissipate. We realize that as His children, we are deeply loved and cared for by the Creator of the universe. His love is perfect, and it casts out fear because we know that we are never alone, abandoned, or forgotten. God's love assures us that He is always with us, guiding us, protecting us, and working all things together for our good. This assurance fills us with confidence and replaces our fears with peace. In addition, spiritual confidence is rooted in the knowledge that God is always in control. Even when life feels chaotic, fear often stems from a sense of uncertainty or lack of control. But when we place our trust in God, we are reminded that He is sovereign over every detail of our lives. Nothing catches Him by surprise, and nothing is outside of His control. This understanding gives us the confidence to release our anxieties and trust that God is working behind the scenes, even when we cannot see it. Psalm 46:10 encourages us to be still and know that I am God. In this stillness, we find the confidence to let go of fear and rest in the assurance of God's sovereignty. Spiritual confidence also grows when we embrace our identity in Christ. We are not defined by our fears or our weaknesses. We are defined by who God says we are. As believers, we are children of God, heirs to His promises, and more than conquerors through Christ. This identity empowers us to face fear head-on, knowing that we have been given authority through Christ to overcome any obstacle. Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." This verse reminds us that fear does not have the final say in our lives. We are victorious through Christ, and this victory gives us the confidence to live boldly and fearlessly. Spiritual confidence over fear is not about denying the reality of fear, but about choosing to place our trust in God's power, love, and faithfulness. It's about recognizing that while fear may arise, it does not have to control us. But with God by our side, we can face any challenge with confidence, knowing that He is greater than any fear we may encounter. Spiritual confidence transforms how we approach life, empowering us to live with boldness, courage, and unwavering faith in the One who holds our future securely in His hands. Encouragement to persevere is essential for anyone navigating the ups and downs of life. Life often presents us with challenges that seem insurmountable, times when it feels easier to give up than to keep pushing forward. Yet, perseverance is one of the most important qualities we can cultivate in our journey of faith. It is the ability to remain steadfast even when the path is difficult, and to press on despite setbacks, disappointments, or delays. The Bible is filled with encouragement to persevere, reminding us that persistence in the face of adversity is not only necessary but also rewarding. One of the most powerful examples of perseverance is found in the life of the Apostle Paul. Throughout his ministry, Paul faced countless hardships, imprisonment, beatings, shipwrecks, and opposition from both enemies and even fellow believers. Yet, despite all of these challenges, Paul remained committed to his mission. His resilience came from his deep faith in God and his unwavering belief that the work he was doing had eternal significance. In 2 Corinthians 4:8-9, Paul writes, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." These words capture the essence of perseverance, continuing forward, even when life feels overwhelming, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. Perseverance requires a strong foundation of faith. When we trust that God has a plan for our lives, we are better equipped to endure the difficult seasons. We may not always understand why things are happening the way they are, but we can rest in the assurance that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating things for our good. Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This verse is a source of encouragement to persevere because it assures us that our struggles are not in vain. Even when we cannot see the outcome, we can trust that God is using our trials to shape us, strengthen us, and prepare us for what lies ahead. Perseverance also requires patience. In a world that values instant gratification, waiting on God's timing can be one of the most challenging aspects of perseverance. But the Bible encourages us to be patient in affliction and to trust that God's timing is perfect. James 1:3-4 says, "Because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." This passage highlights the importance of allowing perseverance to complete its work in us. It's during the waiting, the struggles, and the setbacks that God is refining our character and preparing us for the blessings that are to come. Encouragement to persevere also comes from understanding the eternal perspective of our trials. The difficulties we face in this life are temporary, but the rewards of remaining faithful and persevering are eternal. Galatians 6:9 urges us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." This promise serves as a powerful reminder that perseverance is worth it. There is a harvest waiting for those who continue to press forward, even when the journey is hard. Whether it's in the form of personal growth, strengthened faith, or eternal rewards, God honors our perseverance. Encouragement to persevere can be found in the example of Jesus Christ himself. Jesus endured the ultimate trial, suffering and dying on the cross for the sake of humanity. He could have avoided the pain, but he chose to persevere because of his love for us and his commitment to fulfilling God's plan. Hebrews 12:2 reminds us to fix our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus' perseverance is the ultimate example of enduring hardship with faith and purpose. When we feel like giving up, we can draw strength from his example, knowing that if he endured the cross for our sake, we can endure the trials we face in our own lives. Perseverance is not always easy, but it is essential to living a life of faith. When we remain steadfast in the face of adversity, trusting in God's plan, and leaning on his strength, we find the courage to keep going. And in the end, our perseverance will be rewarded in ways we can't even imagine. In conclusion, the journey of life is often marked by challenges and uncertainties that test our faith and resilience. Yet the call to persevere remains a powerful and essential aspect of our spiritual walk. By grounding ourselves in the unwavering truth of God's promises, we can face our fears with confidence, knowing that he walks beside us every step of the way. Through prayer, scripture, and the support of our faith community, we can cultivate a spirit of perseverance that empowers us to rise above adversity. As we embrace our identity as children of God, we learn to trust his perfect timing and infinite wisdom, even in moments of doubt and struggle. By fixing our eyes on Jesus, the ultimate example of perseverance, we find inspiration and strength to continue pressing forward, no matter the obstacles we encounter. Ultimately, our commitment to endure will yield a bountiful harvest, both in our personal growth and in the fulfillment of God's divine purpose for our lives. Let us embrace the journey of perseverance with faith and courage, knowing that our efforts are never in vain and that we are being shaped for greatness in the process.